let's talk about Coach Leach and his honor. I mean, he's obviously not here any longer, but so many people have just loved him through the years. You were under him for so long. But what's he meant to you and also to college football?
Yeah, to me, he's meant, I mean, it'd be tough to describe. I mean, gave me a shot to play college football. Obviously, gave me a chance to start coaching, very early on. He hired me as a receiver coach at 23 years old at Texas Tech when not a lot of people would have done that. So, I think believed in me, very, very, very early on. And, had a great relationship. I mean, a lot of hours over a lot of years, man. A lot of great stories, a lot of laughs, a lot of fun. Certainly, I mean, I certainly wouldn't be here. My life wouldn't be like it is without him, no question. And then just past the professional side, just great friends. So miss him very much. To college football, I mean, college football wouldn't be like it is now. From what he did offensively, kind of fearlessness in the way that he coached, the people that he hired. I mean, you start tracing back his tree. It's kind of crazy, But he changed a lot, man. That's why I brought that up in my opening statement. We don't need to miss the impact. There's winning games and there's impact. He had impact.
Thanks, Coach. We're doing a little story feature on him on our Texas Tech site. So thank
Fantastic.
You very much.
Awesome.
Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think playing the schedule that we're going to play now, I think it opens you up more in some regions. I mean, you can even tell even before we've played a snap in the Big Ten. You look at, last year we signed kids from Minnesota. We signed kids from Michigan. You could already feel that interest even before this officially starts. And listen, USC's always been a national brand and always will be, but I think maybe even more access there before. And certainly, you're trying to build, to me in two ways. I mean, you're building for the teams, that you're going to play and what you feel like it's going to take to win those games year in and year out in your conference. But then, there's also a bigger picture for us. We're building to be in the national championship race every single year. And that's what you come for at USC. And so some of this is, as I've said a few times today, listen, we didn't take over one that was a national championship contender and just walk into it, right? Like this was a revamp, and so this has been a rebuild from a roster standpoint. And some of this would have been happening whether the Pac-12 was still the Pac-12 or this change would have happened. But certainly we got an idea of who we're playing and are making the adjustments necessary and all of that to help best equip us in the Big Ten.
How do the rebuild is going as you enter year 3? Do you think it's on schedule or ahead of schedule or behind schedule?
Oh, it's definitely not behind. I mean, they won 4 the year before. We won 19 the last 2. I mean, so it's not behind. I mean, it can never get here fast enough, right? Especially at a blue blood, and that's the difference, right? I've been lucky that the last, whatever it is, 9 years or whatever it's been, I've been in a blue blood program, so I've seen, I've got a front row seat to what life in these is like, and so. It can't happen soon enough, and we fight and scratch and claw every single day to get it to where it's got to be. There's some things that we were able to amend quickly and get pretty competitive pretty quickly. There's also some things that take time that no matter how hard you try and what you do, like there's still, you can't revamp a roster and all the freshman classes and stacking those classes. Like you can't do 4 years worth of work in 1 year. Like it can't happen. You can't build a brand new facility in 1 year and get it all planned and designed and move heaven and earth like we did to get it done. I mean, like this stuff takes time, man. And so I think we've made progress in every way that you can possibly measure, especially, and I think people that were around the program before have a greater respect for that probably than the ones that just see USC out from a distance. But we're coming quickly.
And there's always pressure, coaching a blue blood, but is there any added pressure the move to the Big Ten? There's been a lot of talk about this kind of being the premier conference in all of college football. Obviously, the reigning national champion in the conference. Is there added pressure of moving conferences?
Honestly, I don't think so. I mean, it's, to me, it's, I got asked this at OU, I got asked this at SC. It's not about the pressure, it's about the opportunity. And the opportunities that we've had have been great. I think in some ways the opportunities will even be better in this conference because of the matchups that are going to happen, and obviously with the expanded playoff and all of that. Like, I think it's going to be a great thing, but like, to sit here and say this is going to like massively change the expectations at USC. I mean, again, I'm not making it up. I mean, the guys, they were there the first day I came in to a 4-win team, and I said our expectations are championships this year when we put ourselves right on the doorstep of that pretty quick. So, I mean, I just think that's just part of it at a place like this, and no matter what conference you're in, that's always going to be. That's why Blue Bloods are a little bit different than all the rest. I don't know. I mean, like when I got hired at OU, I mean, everybody thought it was crazy and the program was going to tank. So listen, I mean, I don't get high and low with all of that. Like I know the outside world does, and I know a lot of people like to sensationalize things, but like it's not accurate, and two, it's not reality. Like I don't really care. Like, I'm either going to be standing up here and they're going to be talking to me about why we were picked to win the conference, or standing here about talking to me why we were this or that. And then at the end of the season, nobody's going to give a damn about where you were picked. Like, you're going to go play and it's going to be what it is. So I try to find motivation in either one. If you pick against us, I guess, say, well, we want to prove you wrong. And if you pick us, I want to justify it. Right. But no, I've been a part of both. And I don't know, just the more years you go through it, you realize more and more like that stuff really doesn't matter. It really has no impact. It's going to be decided right out here like it should. The defensive line was probably more in response to the scheme change and the style, but I don't want to say that playing in this league it wasn't a factor. The defensive line was more drastic, right? Like it was more you're trying to turn 285-pound bodies into guys now are 310. You're talking some big jobs. The O-line. Yes, we wanted to get bigger. I don't know there was anybody that we were like, all right, hey, he's got to just go crazy, or like we're way far away. Some of it is we're going to play with a few young guys, like an Elijah Page that just physically needed that regardless of where we were playing. But now we are bigger. The numbers would suggest right now we're quite a bit bigger, quite a bit stronger than we've been up there in the past. We're finishing up. They're finishing up off season tomorrow, so we'll have. But I mean, like D-line wise, I mean, we put on 300 plus pounds just in the first. I mean, up until spring ball, so the first 2 months of off season. So it's pretty significant. Divided by the rotation. Divided by everybody in the D-line room. Yeah. When you mentioned how do you balance that going out there and you said for this roster, I mean, to win this, it never changes. Like it's always the same. And then the season's going to be over. And then are you taking steps to put yourself not just there the following year, but for years to come? How do you read the run defense that this very loud last year while joining the league that is known for the big things? Yeah, you coach better and you play better. I mean, there's great examples of it happening. I mean, look at the guy that we hired as defensive coordinator. He authored a tremendous turnaround. I was a part of a similar turnaround at Oklahoma when we struggled a little bit the first year and a half that I was there, and then made a defensive change similar to this, and then all of a sudden defense became the strength of that team. And so there's a ton of examples of how it can happen. And the answer is a little bit of everything, right? Coaching a little bit better, scheming a little bit better, developing a little bit better, recruiting a little bit better. And some of it for us is just letting take hold what we've been doing the last few years, like you saw in the bowl game. Like it's, when you continue to recruit, you continue to bring in high level people, you get facilities right. Like as you start, just, it's like you got a list of things that from being in championship programs, you have to do well to be at this level. And there's just like a list that you just try to keep checking boxes, and you keep checking those, and those things keep taking hold. Eventually you'll be right there where you want to be.
The Big Ten guys who are incumbents have said those West Coast teams, they enjoy the sun too much, can't play in the coals, they don't run the ball, or defend the run like we defend the run. Why do you think that perception exists?
I don't know. I really don't care. We'll find out in the fall.
Why is it wrong?
Again, I mean, that's all going to get proven out here, no matter what I say in front of a mic. I mean, listen, you want to go compare football history, so I'll put ours up against anybody's. I mean, and the Big Ten's got some teams with some phenomenal histories, but we're not just learning how to play football.
Talking about the scheduling with all the conferences and teams being nationwide now, is there anything different, like preparation-wise, when you have a game that's coast to coast, like you're going to go play Michigan? And, I mean, is there anything different when you have to account for a full day of travel?
Yeah, we've gotten some test runs on this. I mean, obviously, coming out here to play Notre Dame, it's not a whole lot different in terms of the travel. There's some things in terms of recovery. I think for us, probably be a little bit more leading up to the game that we'll certainly try to accelerate. And this new facility is going to be, the preeminent facility in the country, in my opinion, for recovery, among other things. And then, for us, we're fortunate on the back end because we're going to gain all the hours coming back. So the recovery for the opposing teams coming our way and then going east, post game will be, and preparation for the next game will probably be a little more challenging for them than it is for us. So yeah, I honestly, like, NFL teams have been doing it forever now. I mean, do you see anybody in the NFL making a big deal about, oh my God, the Rams got to go play the Giants? Like, I think at some point after this first year, it's not going to be a topic. I think we'll be all sitting there media day next year, and I don't think we'll be answering many questions, but I understand it right now, and we do got to be aware of it. We got to do it well, but I think if we do, I think it'll be a minimal impact. We did. Yeah, we did. And he was, like any competitor, I think more than anything, wanted to make sure that I still had confidence in him, and that the reason I didn't put him in the game and take Caleb out he wanted to make sure it didn't have to do with my lack of confidence in him, which it didn't. I mean, I remember I said on the headsets many times, hey, if Caleb can't go, like, Miller go in there and he'll play well. But it was, Caleb was functional enough at that time and had been playing at a high enough level. It was hard to take him out. So, now I remember having a conversation, and I was open and honest with him, and obviously it's been great that he stayed and stuck through it, and I think he's got a lot better because of that.
When it comes to West Coast recruiting, like in SC and Oregon have been preeminent on the West Coast for many years. What has it been like recruiting against Oregon in your tenure, and how has it changed in the landscape when the news of them joining the league? How has that changed in the ball?
I don't know, man. We recruit against so many people. There's rarely a player that comes up that is just you in this other school. I feel like it used to be a little bit more like that. I mean, now you're recruiting against everybody because everybody travels. A lot of teams come to the West Coast. West Coast teams go to the East or to the Midwest. Like, I mean, there's rarely a player that comes up that's just you in another school. So we recruit against a lot of other good schools. A lot of schools that have maybe in some ways have a little bit of a head start on us, right? Especially if you look at the last few years. But we have some inherent advantages that nobody else has, and as we continue to catch up, everybody's going to see that more and more.
You mentioned the facilities and obviously the rebuild part of this. When you took over versus where you are now, has this rebuild maybe been, I don't know, tedious is the right word, but I'll just use that there, a little bit more tedious than you maybe anticipated it being?
No, I mean, I knew it was going to take a lot. Like, I I knew that. I was ready for that. You don't always know what every single challenge is going to be until you actually like get in there and open up the hood, right? Like, but I knew there's a reason why it had underachieved, and we're going to have to figure out what those reasons are. We're going to have to fix them. But I was very much a believer, and still even more so now, that the firepower in this program has not gone anywhere. Like it's still here. Like the things that are good in this program are so good and are things that really can't be duplicated. And so when you get all the other parts right, which is what we know how to do, then I think those will shine kind of like they did for so many years, back in the 2000s and all the other great times in history that USC has been at the top. And but it's a process to get there. Has my patience been tested on it? Yeah, hell yeah. Like no doubt. Like it's every day. But my resolve hasn't been tested. My commitment to being here hasn't been tested. Like I know this is the right place. I know what this is going to be, and that's what makes the confidence every day. Whether the day goes perfectly the way you want it, or that something goes wrong that day, like I don't ever leave that day like discouraged. Like because there's just a bigger picture to what we're building here, and I'm really focused on that, and I'm really confident in what we're doing, and that we're doing it at the right place.
There's a new thing in college football literally every day, and you're trying to rebuild a blue blood program. Has it ever felt like you were trying to play catch up with where other schools who are at the level USC is supposed to be at were at?
No, for sure. We are playing catch up. Like that's we're playing catch up in facilities. We're playing catch up in NIL. We've been playing catch up in resources within the program. We've been playing catch up in damn near every way that you could think of. But when we catch up, and we are going to catch up, that's when the things that this place has that others don't shows up again, and it's coming.
Lincoln, where do you anticipate the biggest improvement with your defense based off spring ball?
Based off of spring ball, I would say tackling. And I thought we took some really good steps in the bowl game. I know it was referenced in the big press conference earlier. And I think tackling, there's so much to it, right? Everybody thinks it's just the physical act of tackling somebody. It's being in position. It's knowing where your help is. It's knowing how I need to leverage this block. It's the fundamentals. Like it's all of that. And I felt like I saw a group this spring that made some really, really big strides that way. And obviously that's going to be a key statistic for us.
Lincoln, you coach.
Today, he made this summer. Can you speak to that? Maybe how ready he might be to contribute at some point this year?
He's one of those guys, man. When the light comes on, it's going to be bright. I mean, he's a really, really talented kid. This spring had absolutely no clue what he was doing, but a great kid. And like how his body has changed he already looked good when we signed him. But the way his body has changed he walks in the door right now and he looks like an NFL defensive lineman. And he's learning the game. Coach Henney and Coach New have been great for him. And I certainly wouldn't put it past him to be able to contribute. But, like, he's one of those guys, like, you can just feel like it's just a matter of time.
How do you flash the radar for you guys?
Yeah, I give Weston Zernical and our personnel staff a real shout out. Kind of found him was a little bit under the radar. Was a body type when we made the hire with Coach Land that we were really excited about there towards the end, and got a chance to get to know the kid. Really, just kind of we really just were kind of enamored with the kid and his personality and just the quality of person he was, and just continue to progress from there.
How does that opener against LSU heighten training camp, and in the future? Are matchups like that going to be a little bit tougher to schedule because of you're playing in an 18-team conference right now where you might play 3 or 4 top 10 teams on any given year?
Yeah, I think if the conferences stay the way they are, if the playoff stays the way that it is right now, then I think you'll see less and less of those, especially with us in the SEC. Just because our schedules are already going to be so good, at some point you're like, all right, are we getting? Is the juice worth the squeeze, right, in terms of playing these games? I think as competitors, we all want to play these games. Now, if and when the playoff shifts again, if you start talking about, if something were to happen, let's say guaranteed spots, even more guaranteed spots in some of these conferences, all of that, then I think it could lend itself to these games being back and more prevalent, which would be good for the game because, I mean, games like this are awesome.
Is that why the Ole Miss series got canceled?
Say it again.
Is that why the Ole Miss series got canceled?
To my knowledge, yes. Yeah, that was kind of in the works for a while, but I mean, you got a responsibility to what do you think is going to put you in the best position to do it. And I mean, we probably have just about as good argument as anybody in college football because we've got a yearly game against a good opponent in Notre Dame along with this schedule. So it was, but I mean, the hard thing right now is with all this scheduling is you're having to make scheduling decisions so many years in advance, but then all this is changing and you're not exactly sure what system that you're scheduling for, which is a challenge.
When that series gets canceled, and then Joe Castiglione says that you don't want to stay there to play in the SEC.
I'm not getting into that. Next question.
Coach, a lot of talk about the weather environments USC can from Southern California to the Big Ten Conference. Does that really make a difference? I mean, USC plays in 110 degrees in Arizona. They can go up to Colorado. They can go up to the Pacific Northwest where it's cold. How much is this weather going to factor into those things?
I've never felt like it was that much of a factor. I mean, done the snow games and all the other stuff. Now, I'm not saying if you don't get one like, was it Ohio State, maybe Northwestern, maybe I saw it last year with a wind. Yeah, wind. I mean, now listen, that don't matter where you play it. That's going to be a challenge no matter what. Or if you get a driving rainstorm or you're playing a blizzard or whatever. But yeah, sure. If you get the crazy extremes, that's going to be different for everybody and everybody's going to have to adjust. You got to go do it. We got to go prove it. But I feel like football players go play. I think that's more of an inconvenience for fans than it is for players.
You coach.
Yeah, I think it's just a sign for us that we feel like a lot of the players that we've recruited and developed over the last few years are ready to play. And at some point as a program, you got to decide, you got enough confidence in the guys you've been recruiting or developing, or are you just going to keep going portal? And that's, as I've told you guys, long term, that's not what I want to be. I want to use the portal here and there, but I want us to be a developmental program. And certainly the lines of scrimmage and not going very portal heavy at all, really on either one, I think show that we're, doubling down on that motion.
Lincoln, the general manager role in college football is seemingly grown a lot and is continuing to grow. With revenue sharing on the horizon, with NIL still uncertain, how big do you feel like that role will be in the future, and how have you, evaluated where Dave Emmerich has been in just sort of navigating those landscape changes?
Yeah, everybody's going to, everybody has, and then everybody will use that role differently, coming forward. And it's not, you're going forward. It's not just going to be a GM. I mean, you're talking about, there's going to be significant staff changes all across college football to get ready for revenue sharing and salary caps. And I mean, it's very much going towards a very professional model from a staff standpoint. Everybody's going to do it in their own way. But that part's going to be important. I think Dave's done a really good job. He's worked hand in hand with our collective, and I know we've already talked off to the side. I mean, which is our collective has made a massive jump. I mean, again, starting from zero. I mean, 0.00 when we got there to now. He's done a great job with that. Dave played a prominent role in hiring this defensive staff that everybody's giddy about right now, and has helped us put together really that group and done an outstanding job. He's done a lot of things behind the scenes with our new facility, and I think certainly his role is going to evolve going forward, as is really the rest of that department for us.
Lincoln, your first Big Ten game is in Ann Arbor. What are your expectations of opening your Big Ten play that way, and how much of a stylistic change is that
Yeah, we're looking forward to the game. I haven't had a chance to coach in many Big Ten venues. I think just Ohio State, my first year, we got to go there the second game, which was fun, and this will be another fun one. So yeah, I think the just the college football fan in me, like, that's pretty damn cool that USC and Michigan are opening up like the new Big Ten, and to me, no surprise that the Big Ten would pick those two schools and brands to kind of kick this thing off. So I think that's awesome. The coach in me is like, yeah, it's going to be great to go compete against a really good football team. And I've always loved coaching on the road. So perfect way to be introduced to the Big Ten.
How was the process of offseason scouting?
Yeah, we have. We've, because we're obviously getting a new defensive staff up to speed, not only on obviously our people, but then everybody else that we're playing. We've got some teams coming up that had some pretty significant coaching changes. So in some ways you're studying, personnel that other people have versus, maybe this coach coached at this place or at that place. So you've got to certainly take that into account. Yeah, it's been good. We've had a lot of time to familiarize ourselves with the league, the teams that are upcoming, starting to project what we're going to see and what we're going to want to be able to do. And I would say those projects this year have probably been a little bit more extensive than the past just because of all the new changes, new opponents.
This is in a different role, but with Chip Kelly being a play caller in the Big Ten, what do you kind of think of what his offense can look like in the Big Ten and if he can succeed?
Oh, yeah, for sure he can succeed. He's a really good coach. Chip's a good friend. I know he's, looking forward to that opportunity, and he's got a bunch of good players there. And it'll be, he and Ryan will have to go coexist, which that'll be fun. And they'll do a good job. And I know they've got history, so we've laughed about that a little bit. But no, I think he'll do a really good job. Like I said, Chip's, obviously had a great offensive history throughout his past, and I know he's looking forward to the challenge.
Specifically, what will he bring to that table, Lincoln? A little bit more emphasis on the running game. Having coached against it for a couple of years, what do you think he'll specifically bring to Chip?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to profess myself as an expert on what they were doing before, but Chip's really creative. He's really creative in the running game and in the passing game, and has always been that way. So his ability to do both and marry them up, I'm sure will show up there.
Lincoln, what that team did last year at UCLA, what would be considered a success?
Well, I expect that we'll make a big jump. I do. Now, can you you sit there and say, oh, it's not a success if we don't jump, 80 spots in the rankings or whatever that they did there. I don't know that I'd want to put a number on it, but I mean, I want it to look and feel, and I want us to play, a lot different. And I think much closer to our capabilities. I mean, that's the thing to me is you have in your mind, all right, this is what we have. This is kind of what we feel like the level we can play at. And are we playing to a level that's that or close to that and doing it consistently the way the guys are playing? Does that show up? Are we making improvements throughout the year? Are our guys developing? And if that happens, then the numbers tend to take care of themselves.
Lincoln, you've been in the
Yeah, we've tried not to, overthink too much of where these players are at. If they've got legitimate interest and we feel like they're the right type of fit for our school and for our program, then we're going to go recruit them. And we all have a lot of Texas, or a lot of us have a lot of Texas ties, and a lot of ends there. And so we've tried to take advantage of that. We've been able to bring a lot of really good players to USC from Texas and those other states. And so, and kind of like to the question earlier, I mean, you're going to battle schools no matter where you go, right? There's not like an area that you're, whether close to home or away from home, that you're not going to battle other people. And so I don't really get too concerned about who we're going to battle. To me, it's more about finding the right fits, and then let's go after them.
Lincoln, you've been in the Big 12, you've been in the Pac-12. I think I've got most of them. What are you expecting the biggest difference now joining the Big 10? Either style of play or something. Or are you going to find out?
Yeah, probably in some ways we'll find out a little. I mean, I think compared to the Pac-12, I think the road venues are going to consistently be better. And I think you're talking about just a deeper, more talented, more good teams in terms of conference. Now you're not playing everybody, so some of that gets offset a little bit. But yeah, you're talking about a real high quality conference that year in and year out is. You go win this conference, you're probably one of the best 1, 2, or 3 teams in the country. I mean, right? Like it's going to take that every single year to win this thing, which is cool, man. That's what you want to be.
Is there a concern with your offense having to go perhaps to some cold weather sites that historically you've gone to some, but not maybe as many as you may encounter in this league?
Yeah, we'll see. It typically translated well. We had a lot of big games. When we were at OU, at West Virginia, and a bunch of those through the year. Played in some snow games, and we I'll go back and look. Our November record was pretty solid. So yeah, I believe what we do translates anywhere.
Like, what's the playoffs challenge? What's the biggest challenge as being an offensive coordinator, a play caller, and a head coach on
Game day, honestly, I don't really feel like that much on game day. Like I've gotten used to it enough. I've been able to compartmentalize it. I mean, so I guess sometimes at times on game day I couldn't be two places at once. That's part of the shift of one of the thoughts and why we made Luke Heward the quarterback coach, and he's taken over a lot of the day to day stuff there. For me, is to have somebody consistently there. But I think it's probably more during the week. It's more trying to prepare, but do all the other things that you have to do. So, I mean, your time management is important. And if you're going to do it, the thing I've learned, not that I've done it great, but like you have to build a staff that allows you to do it. Like their strengths and what they can do have to complement you as a head coach and vice versa. And you got to make it all in sync. And so, and not just the coaching staff, the support staff, everyone. And so, I think me doing that has been an advantage for us, I would say. And so I've tried to find a way to maintain that with not sacrificing other parts of the program and doing anything that I need to do to make myself more readily available, like the change this year. I just want to win. So whatever I got to do that, that's what I'm going to do.
Speaking of accountability, like when you're talking to Coach Sweeney about cohorts, what are the conversations like about what he needs in practice for the defense and what he needs in practice for the offense?
Yeah, I've always been one on that I'll adapt to what defensively feel like that we need. I feel like I can adapt. I feel like our offensive staff can adapt to whatever it is, and certainly in a situation like this where we're putting in a new defense, it's a new defensive staff. We've leaned heavily on whatever the defensive emphasis needed to be for that day. That's how we designed the practice. That's how we scheduled the reps. We've worked and fit very well together on that so far. That's been seamless considering the short amount of time we've worked together.
You mentioned the bodies that he's looking for. Does he tell you that the defense, okay, here's what I want out of the defensive line, this is what my corners should look like, and do you have input on that too, or do you feel like, okay,
no, that was part of the hiring process. Was he and I both being pretty candid with each other on what we saw, not just from a scheme standpoint, but who we're bringing in, how we're developing them. That was a big part of making sure that we were going to be on the same page, because I didn't want either one of us to have to really compromise a lot. I was looking for somebody that had very much shared beliefs on what we're doing, and our beliefs are similar enough that we are very much on the same page with what we want, and now we got to go get it.
Lincoln, with the playoff expanding, you're looking at the potential for a 17-game season. Do you have to make any adjustments to keep guys fresh down the stretch? What do you have to do maybe with those potential for the extra?
Well, we've never had to even think that way, right? And now, now it's going to be interesting. You're going to get put in some interesting positions, right? Like take us our first year at SC. We beat UCLA. We're in the championship game. We play Notre Dame before the championship game. What do you do now? Obviously you go, but I mean, you're going to be thinking that way some. Especially like you said, considering that you may have however many games left, and you're going to have to place value on those. And we see it in the NFL now. We see it in other sports. We're gonna be in those positions. We're gonna have to make those decisions. So hopefully we put ourselves in that position pretty quick. But yeah, it'll all be part of the strategy.
So you're talking about actually resting players and not playing them like they do in the NFL in the regular season finale if they're locked up in playoff bid?
It's possible. Now, ours right now, I mean, you still got to win. You still got to win your conference championship. But I mean, even then, let's say you already qualified for the conference championship, but you weren't going to be, a number 1 or number 2 seed. You'd already, lost a game or two, and you weren't probably going to be that. And you had a marquee game against like Notre Dame coming up like us. Like, how do you handle that? And that's interesting to think about, and it's, we've started to have some initial conversations about those scenarios. Now, where your roster's at that point and all that, there's so many other factors that go in. It's hard to sit here and say today what you would do, but like, do those things cross your mind? Are those things that we're going to have to deal with in the future? Yes.
Do you plan on keeping the Notre Dame game moving forward, just with the move to the Big Ten now?
I would love to. I would love to. I know it means, a lot to a lot of people. And so the purist in you, no doubt. Now, if you get in a position where you got to make a decision on what's best for SC to help us win a national championship versus keeping that, shoot, then you got to look at it. I mean, and listen, we're not the first example of that. Look all the way across the country. There's been a lot of other teams sacrifice rivalry games. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but, as we get into this playoff structure, and if it changes or not, we get in this new conference, like, we're going to learn some about this as we go, and what the right and the best track is, to winning a national championship. Like, that's going to evolve, Bama was ahead of the curve for years, I thought, on how they scheduled in the non-conference, right? They would occasionally hit the marquee non-conference game. They played two other, not very good teams. They play one late so that they got essentially a little bit of a bye week right there late in the season when your, season's been going on, you're a little beat up. Like, they didn't schedule for their fans. Like, they scheduled to win championships. And so my hope is we can do the best thing, schedule to win championships, and that includes a rivalry game that, for all that comes with that and all that it means. But if you get in those positions, you got to make a decision on what the priority is.
How do you?
It's not an easy answer.
Well, how do you think or hope the committee evaluates that, in the sense of you're playing 9 league games plus 2 power non-conference games? The SEC's playing 8, 9-3, 8-4. I mean, do you hope the committee, or what do you expect the committee to really? I feel like they were conditioned to look at the loss column and that's it. But with 12 teams now,
well, in the past they have been. There's no question. Losses, no matter who they're to, have outweighed anything else, and history has told us that. Now that you have 2, super conferences, or whatever you want to call these two, you got 2 conferences that are way out front of everybody else right now. All right, and there's going to have to be a shift in thinking. Like, there has to be, or it won't work. And so, how much value do they place on the 9th game? How much value do they place on playing, Notre Dame versus, some directional school, right? Like, it's gonna have a big impact on how we all schedule in the future. So, if they want these matchups, then they need to value them accordingly.
What you're talking about, minimum, how many teams do you think the Big Ten should be getting on a year-to-year basis?
That's our question. I mean, obviously we'd like to see it unfold, but I mean, if you're talking about just truly the best teams, I mean, it's hard to me to imagine that this league not having at least 3 in. I mean, it's kind of hard to imagine when you look at who's in it. And there probably be years you could argue even more than that. Again, we'll see how it evolves. And I've been on the other side of the coin. I've been in all the playoff discussions. I've been, I've been one of those teams that's right there on the doorstep of it. I am very much a proponent of all the conference champions getting in.